Toyota Dealer 400 in Lydenburg was the penultimate round of the 8-race-long 2006 ABSA Off-Road Championships, and it was all coming to a head. None of the championship crowns had truly found a resting place on a head yet, and in all the categories the racing was due to be cutthroat. At Race HQ in the Mpumalanga town of Lydenburg, drivers shared their ink, friendliness and trained mechanics without previous experience. Cool and overcast conditions greeted the drivers for the prologue day in a town which has been a part of the off-road circuit for 4 years now, what with its mountainous surrounds, tough conditions and hospitable reputation. It's a town steeped in history, boasting national monuments and reminders of days of ox wagons and dusty streets, actually very much the same as the ones that the 65 teams would encounter on their way over 400 testing kilometers. On the racing front, the dice was on for supremacy in the special vehicle class, even though the Motorrad Stables racing ace Alfie Cox just had to assure a top 5 finish to clinch the championship, making it 26 national crowns in one or other form of the sport. As for Nissan, they were looking for a 5th overall win out of 7 in their 06 campaign. Their stalwart Hannes Grobler, on the brink of retirement last year, decided to give it a go again, and here he was in with a shot at his 4th title. Their main rivals Ford also had a fine season.
Look, it's been a fantastic season for us. It really has. And in our wildest dreams, I've never thought we would have done so well with a new car. And yeah, we've got 2 events left. We're leading our class, which is fantastic. If someone told me at the beginning of the year 2 races to go, we'd be leading our class, I would never have believed it. So we're in a close tussle. We're by no means out of the woods. It's very, very close. And we're in with a shot of winning the overall championship as well. Hannes, after we drop all our points, drop the events and that, he's got a 10-point lead on us. But we've seen what happened to Schumacher in the Formula 1. We've seen what happened to Nicky Hayden in the MotoGP. So who knows, it might even happen here. I don't know what's around the corner, but it's going to be a very exciting 2 races. It's a 2-horse race. There's no one that can then beat us into 2nd or 1st place. So it's going to be exciting.
Another former champion, Nissan's Duncan Foss, also in a super production class car, was ready to back up his stablemate to the hilt.
It's important for Nissan to get the maximum out of the season as possible. Hannes is in a fight with the Ford for the SP Championship and the overall championship, so it's important, I would think, for me to back him as much as it is possible, and for Hannes to obviously try and win the championship, and Nissan to try and win the Manufacturers' Championship.
But Toyota was certainly not just going to give away the 06 Manufacturers' Championship crown.
Well, for the first time, I think, in many years, Toyota's actually leading the Manufacturers' Championship. And we can see it in any other form of motorsport. The individual titles are obviously important to the drivers and co-driver, but I personally think in terms of the bigger scheme of things, the manufacturer's title for the manufacturer himself is the most important, because I think that demonstrates that your product as a product brand is the most successful in the sport, rather than an individual driver or an individual vehicle. So for us, it's very, very important, and I think very much our focus for the remaining 2 events of the season.
So the host of the second to last race of 06 had set out their stall, and in several classes they were in with a shot.
We're quite far ahead in class at the moment, and we came out here to finish. That's our main motto, to go out and just finish, and if we finish well, then it's just a bonus. So, but I'm sure we'll do good. I'm sure that the preparation on the bucky was very good. So I'm sure we'll do good this race. Last year we did very well. So I like this race, and it's just not that hard. So I'm sure we'll do good.
Visser and his co-driver Jaapie Baardnorst were 4th overall, but all eyes were on the battle up front, with only 8 points separating the Nissan Navara from the Ford Ranger. Go! In the special vehicle class, there were season-long battles that were coming to a head, and at the last preparations, teams were frantic to ensure that each car was in tip-top shape to bear the brunt of the bushveld and come through relatively unscathed. Motorrad have been dominant in 2006, even if team manager Evan Hutchison didn't think so. The diminutive man certainly drives a hard bargain.
Our strategy from the beginning of the year was to take, obviously, 1st, 2nd and 3rd in the championship, and we were hoping for a couple of 1, 2, 3s at individual races. Obviously, that's a tall call, and we haven't managed to get a 1, 2, 3 at an event yet. We've had a couple of 1, 2 and 4s, and we have had some good results. In the championship at the moment, we're lying 1st, 2nd and 4th as well. I'm in 4th place, unfortunately. I've been the one that's had a few problems this year. So, yeah, and I think our 1st and 2nd, there's no ways anybody can catch them. The winner is going to come out of either Brandon or Alfie. So, suppose being in third, you expect no pressure, but I have got a bit. I've got to make sure that I get past Terence. I think he's 5 or 6 points ahead of us. So I don't think that should be a problem, but I've got to make sure that we have 2 finishes and then I'll just finish in front of Terence so that we can end up at the end of the year with an overall first, second and third for the team. Yeah.
High standards, but then theirs is a well-run team with a tough championship contender right in there.
No, I think with 2 races to go, sure, I've got 15-point lead, but certainly the pressure's not off. I mean, obviously I don't have to do the winning, but, you know, if I want to win the championship, I'd like to win at least one of the next 2 races that are coming. So going into this race, I think obviously look to see Brandon is my teammate, and he's the one that's also going for the championship. So I'm going to check what Brandon's doing, but we're going to give it, I think, is everything we can, and let's get this race over with, and then we can concentrate on what we're going to do when we go to Carnival City. So certainly not over. Sure, one hand is on the trophy, but they always say it's not over till the fat lady sings, and she's half singing at the moment, but it's off-road racing, and we know the car at the moment is fantastic. And I just think Motorrad and the team and Evan, what he's put together this year, I think it's just made everybody's eyes open, and I'm just can't be too happy to be in a team that's so professional like this and to have a car that's absolutely unbelievable up until now. And I must be honest, I'm thoroughly enjoying the season.
Well, if anyone could start off the lady, Alfie could certainly make her yodel. For Ernest Corbett, there was a championship waiting in Class B.
Well, everyone else tells me that, but I don't want to get into that game of things. I just do one race at a time, have fun at it. If we win, it'll be great. Look, the main thing is to win for the mechanics. That's really what it's all about. You know, at my age, you know, winning isn't a big deal. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to impress some young lady or something. You know, I'm happily married, 38 years, all that's behind me. I just have fun.
I'm sure Mrs. Corbett will be happy to hear that. Simple philosophy and effective too. For Richard Schilling, it's not quite cut and dried.
Yeah, well, points not as good as I'd like them to have been. Look, Chris, my navigator's still in the lead. That's very important that we continue to score points to keep this lead for him so that he can become SA champ a second time. From a driver's point of view, well, not quite the way I'd like to win. I have a small chance, but I think I am relying on people breaking down. I think being a little bit of a toppy, we do come to race to win individual events. Yes, the championship's important. We're still going to have a lot of fun today, and I hope we can give those other guys in S1 a big carrot again.
Go! But whether it was diced or sliced, the fruit salad was about to be cut. Cox at the top with a 15-point lead, but his teammate Brandon Harkis was ready to push him all the way for the championship. On to the prologue of the Toyota Dealer 400, and another crew who had high hopes of a second victory was the Atlas Copco duo, Gary Bertholdt and veteran Henry Costain, and they started off with a bang, clocking a lightning-fast 26 minutes and 21 seconds over the testing 32 kilometers or 20 miles of the prologue, which would determine the starting order for the next day's all-out racing. Hutchison and his co, Kim Bergman, were also in a mean mood and let her rip from the get-go. Cox and his faithful navigator Henny ter Steger also let it all hang out, but they knew that they could be cautious in their approach, save the car and get to the line in one piece. While his teammate Brandon Harkis, a winner in the opening leg of the series in the Cape with Mysultra 3 riding shotgun, proved that the Motorrad threesome would be tough to stop. However, just a few Ks later, Team Morale must have got a big slap when Harkis's big back with its Chevy engine decided that the gearbox didn't feel well, and it meant start penalties and waiting on the second day behind some slower traffic. Fourth in Class A, the Porsche engine Jimco, with Gerard du Plessis at the wheel and wife Kirby du Plessis navigating, impressed with its workmanlike performance, taking 7th overall, 81 seconds down, clocking a time of 27 minutes and 42 seconds. The The screaming greenback featuring Colin Matthews and Bodo Bertolt flying the colours of Gondwana Steel and Construction was another surprise package, filling 8th place overall and 5th in the A-class. Clint Gibson and Michael Brown's absolute underwriting bat was 6th in Class A, and the big Chevy sounded like it was ready for a pounding on the way to the finish line. They were 2 minutes off the pace set by the Atlas Copco Porter at the top of the board. In Class S, the National Mobile Racing Raceco with Archie Rutherford and Craig Doubtfire aboard were leading the prologue and the National Championship, but they had their work cut out for them. That's all because of this man. The veteran racer and former Roof of Africa champion Richard Schilling and his nav Chris Davies were piling on the pressure in their Plastotech Raceco. They were only 29 seconds behind and pushing hard. Very, very hard. In Class B, the self-professed old man, Ernest Corbett and co-driver Warwick Goosen were flying in the Century Property Racing bat, but in turn, they were also taking heat from their nearest rivals. Their rearview mirror brought into focus the Bozel Zarco of Marius van Vuren and Johan Coetzee, who were just 2 ticks off the clock behind them at the line. It was racing as tight as it could be. And if you were just slightly off the pace in this field, you got blasted. The Keymax Property Development back with the father and son combination of the Cries, taking Giel Nel and Johan Smallberger in the Bozel Truggy, but they would run into trouble and finished off the pace. And that pace was set by Bertolt and Kirstein with a 14-second stopgap over the Motorride crew. It would mean a dust-free ride for the Atlas Copco crew. In the production car category, the SP class in its first full year on the roster was as tight as it could be as well. Grobler and his navigator, the mustachioed Francois Jordan, were impressive to say the least. They racked up a 27-minute and 15-second clocking on the tricky prologue route, which was a lot faster for the special cars, therefore pointing to the fact that the route would probably also suit the space frame vehicles better. Their teammate Duncan Foss and his co-driver Ralph Pitchford, another former national champ, were also battling along at a furious rate of knots in the second proudly South African Nissan Navara. They were 19 seconds in arrears. Those 4-litre Japanese engines were certainly firing on all cylinders, as was the Nissan of Mark Corbett and Jean Moore, flying the Century Property Development's flag. Even if they did wrong slot a little here. And just imagine what the tree felt like. It wasn't a particularly auspicious start for the Ford SP Ranger with Woolridge and Kenny Schulthammer in it. They needed to put the pressure on, but in fact were 1 minute and 4 seconds off the pace. Not exactly making the right statement to the championship leader Grobler. For the Castrol Toyota duo of Mark Ronier and Chris Birkin, it was even worse. They were just not quick enough, but also tried to save the car for the long haul the next day. Off-road racing is an eclectic mix of trying to conserve the car and trying to keep up with the pace setters. One of the reasons that the Toyota team are in front in the manufacturer's race is this crew. Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst in the Tyco Trucks colours. They've been consistent and were leading Class D with a 2.7 engine capacity going well. They were 28 seconds ahead of their nearest rival in Class Coetzee Labuschagne and Johan Gerber in their race on ex-Castrol Nissan. They in turn had more than 3 minutes worth of breathing space ahead of the next Class D chaser. Right on their butts though was Class E points leader, the Peter Maritzburg duo of Manfred Schroeder and his co-Ward Huxtable. Their Ford Ranger was doing what it's done all season long, purring right along. They had exactly 70 seconds on their nearest competition in Class D, Yuri and Andre Duplessis in the BB Auto Nissan. No doubt, the battle lines were drawn, and so was the starting order for the next day. Krobler and Jordan would lead off the production car class, but they would start in the dust of 3 specials. Berthold and Houghton had to settle for 6th in the end.